Good afternoon, Robert. I'm very pleased to meet you. And you came to Paris for the Plume des Achats 2016. And we will talk about your book, Lean Supply Chain, Managing the Challenge at Tesco. Can you tell me a little bit more about this book?
Yes, well, we're very pleased to come here to Paris from Cardiff Business School. The book is a reflection of the research that we've undertaken with Tesco going back 20 years now. We did a lot of work in Cardiff Business School looking at Toyota's supply chain and how they became leaner in the way they adopted their supply chain strategy. And we were keen to see whether we could use the same sort of philosophy in other industries' supply chain. And Tesco became an exemplar for us to see what we can do in terms of translating the lean sort of way of working into a new environment. And a lot of the lessons that Tesco went through, that we helped them with, are celebrated in this book, and we reflect on in this book.
It's very interesting because usually people think that what is for manufacturing and for automotive is not at all for retail. But in fact, what I understand is you have, I would say, taken some principle and adapt to retail of Toyota.
Yeah, I think the principles stay the same, but obviously the environment that a grocery company works in is very different to an automotive company. But the principle of, number one, making sure that you understand what the customer values and you orientate your business and your supply chain around that definitely stands. And also some of the principles about reducing inventory and trying to make your processes of the supply chain work to support that are consistent. There are lots of differences, but there are many, many similarities, and Tesco have shown, if you like, that you can apply lean just as well in a setting that they're working in, just as you can in the automotive sector.
In terms of performance, I understand that they have reduced the inventories and increased their service rate. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Well, the inventory reductions, it's hard to get a gauge fully because obviously they're a much bigger business now than they were then. But you can see that from a lean supply chain, you can probably take about half to 3 times the amount of inventory out of the supply chain. And in terms of service levels, Tesco now are probably 99.5% availability in their distribution centres and their stores, compared to probably 98.5 a number of years ago. So they've improved their availability and reduced their inventory. And they are 2 big prizes for any operation with the volume of business that like Tesco handle.
What I understand also is that, in fact, in your book, what you are saying is that they have not only worked on just the supply chain, but they made sure that everything was aligned from strategy to supply chain. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Well, we feel this is a very, very important point, that the business of supply chain management isn't a bolt-on. It's something at the very heart of any big organisation today that's running global supply chains. And Tesco very much are like that. So Tesco's philosophy in the way they run the supply chain logistics is right at the heart of the business. And it's really critical to the way they think and the way they operate and the way they run. So Tesco's attitude and steps towards their supply chain management is at the heart of their business.
Can you tell me, to be very practical, to give people, I would say, think that practical, can you tell me one of the things that has been an outstanding success as an action?
Well, I think Tesco did a lot of work to try and reduce the levels of inventory in their supply chains. But that puts a lot of strain on their suppliers who have to deliver more frequently and more accurately and more responsively. And as a consequence, there's a lot of stress on the transport, the inbound transport in the distribution centres. Now, Tesco, what they did is they took over that inbound supply chain, managing the consolidation network that suppliers were using, and saving a lot of money in terms of the way it was organised and the way it was run. So the whole supply chain supports the ideal of leaner, lower inventory, better availability supply chains today than it did 20 years ago.
Not everything is a global success. And maybe there are some failures, I would say expectation, and did not happen. Can you give an example?
Well, Tesco have been through their problems, as we probably know. And I think one of the biggest areas they've had to deal with is trust in their supply chain. And I think they're showing some quite interesting results now in terms of coming through the areas where trust was broken with a number of things that happened, whether it be some of the accounting issues or some of the issues around different products, for example, being supplied than actually there was labelled to be so. But I think they're going through a curve, if you like, of rebuilding trust with their customers in their supply chain activities, quietly getting on with things and making sure that they do the right thing each time. And I think that was one of the big things that we're quite interested in, and how Tesco are using the supply chain today to underpin their business, if you like, to make sure that they keep building that trust back with their customers.
Yeah, what can make success is the spirit and teamwork. It can be the processes. And it can be, especially in supply chain, IT, system, specification, and implementation. Yeah. What has been the most important in Tesco's success?
I think the most important is the spirit and the culture of the business. But they all three come together. You've got to get a real understanding that the process of the supply chain and the support processes that support the supply chain are the key. So you've got to get away from functional management towards process management, and then you've got to have the IT systems to support it. So it's a combination of people, process and systems, but really it's the culture and the way the business operates that's really important, and that gives the longevity, the sustainability of success, that then, if you like, gives the backbone that you can keep revisiting, if you like, how to get better and better at the way you manage the supply chain.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert.
Thank you very much indeed.